Did you know that 1 in 68 children born are diagnosed for autism? Did you know that there is a rise in the diagnosis of autism? Is your child showing any developmental delay? Could it be autism? These are some of the questions I face day in and day out. Although I am a disability life skill coach and I deal with disabilities of all kind, I get lots of questions from parents who have children diagnosed for autism spectrum disorder. Hence, I'm going to dedicate a few of the episodes of Friday Facts to autism spectrum disorder. And in today's Friday Fact, I'm going to talk about recognizing autism in children. So stay tuned. Welcome back to my channel Dignity in Disability. I'm Anuradha Deshpande, mother of a young man experiencing developmental disability, and I'm also a clinical psychologist, counselor, and a special educator, remedial educator. I'm founder of Care and Care Life Skill Academy, and this pandemic turned me into a digital disability coach. During the pandemic, when I found that parents are struggling to cope with the decreased skill in their children and increased frustration and challenges due to non-availability of therapies on a regular basis due to lockdown, I thought that I have to go beyond being just a professional, but I should be able to teach parents to cope with this kind of situation where they can step in and teach their children. So I'm on a mission to empower 100,000 parents of children with any kind of developmental disabilities to build skills in them and navigate into a life of independence and dignity. And through my channel Dignity in Disability, I bring 2 weekly episodes of Tuesday Facts and Friday Facts, and I make videos on various topics related to developmental disabilities with informations and tactical solutions to it with my 30 years of association in the field of disabilities. So in today's Friday Fact, we are going to talk about recognizing autism in your children. Autism by definition can be diagnosed if symptoms appeared before the age of 3. As a result, autism is diagnosed in young children usually around the age of 3 or even younger than that. There are some rare circumstances when autism is diagnosed when they are in their teens or even as adults. But invariably, on an average, a child is diagnosed for autism between the age of 3 and 6. Because autism is diagnosed in children, most of them believe that autism is a childhood disorder. In fact, all the programs and all the therapies are centered around young children. But there is no way that people who are diagnosed for autism accurately can grow out of autism when they grow into adults. So majority of them who are diagnosed for autism in childhood will remain and grow into an adult with autism. They say that if you have met one child with autism, that means you have met just one child with autism. By saying that, what it means is every child with a diagnosis of autism is unique. You cannot recognize that a child is autistic by their looks because they don't have any specific features. Autistic children can look no different from anyone else. Children with autism can be silent or chatty, they can be bright or they can be intellectually challenged. Their behaviors can range from very quirky to aggressive. They may do well academically or face serious learning disabilities. Children with autism do have some things in common. It is important to remember, however, that autism is a pervasive developmental disorder, which means that no single symptom or a behavior is on its own is likely to suggest that autism disorder exists in that child. So, what does autism look like? So, let us find out how to recognize autism, or what does this autism look like. Let us find out what are those common things in children who have a common diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. And to do that, I will share with you a presentation. The first common thing is children with autism almost always have some kind of speech difference. Some children don't speak at all. Some children have speech delay. Sometimes they have a very typical paucity. They sound very flat. Sometimes they repeat certain things, just memorizing from what they hear on television or what other people are speaking. Sometimes they speak very fast. They also use incorrect grammar, even at an age when they are old enough to speak them correctly. So, invariably, children with autism always have some kind of speech differences in them. So, the next one is children with autism always have social communication difficulties. Again, this presents in a very, very different ways. Sometimes they may not want to interact with anyone. They will want to play alone. They may line up toys or spin or repeat certain actions. On other times, they want to interact all the time. They will always push and pursue their own interest, and they don't know when to stop. Or sometimes they can be very, very passive. But children with a diagnosis of autism often are behind their peers in terms of playing with other children rather than just being near other children. They avoid or crave for loud noise, hug, some specific kind of texture or flavor or even movement. Some children are so oversensitive to certain sensory input which others may not even notice it, while some children crave for sensory stimulation. Children with autism often, though not always, move differently from other children. Some of these children who are diagnosed for autism can indulge in something called STIMs, that is a short form of self-stimulatory behaviors. Like a neurotypical kid can suck their thumb or bite their nails. These children often flap their hands, run out their toes, spin around, and they often have a very awkward gait. They may appear very clumsy. They often find it very difficult when it comes to catching, throwing, or writing and drawing skills. Kids with autism behave differently from their typical peers. While young kids, typically developing kids, can indulge in tantrums to get what they want, or when they are tired or hungry, children with a diagnosis for autism can get into something called meltdowns or tantrums because they are overwhelmed and they are frustrated and they are not able to communicate. They stick to their babyish interest much later than their peers. Behaviors of these autistic children can also be very, very different. Often these children do the same thing or talk about the same thing the same way all the time. And they seem to be stuck in some thoughts, some ideas, or some interaction, or some desire, as they go on and on repeating the same thing over and over again. Some of these children act very emotionally and they burst into tears for something apparently can be a very small thing. Children with autism like routine and they are so fixated to that, and if something goes wrong and they just cannot take it or tolerate it. Even high functioning teenagers with autism can burst into tears if something doesn't happen according to their plan, or if they forget their favorite pen, or their bicycle tire is flat. Some of the children also get into very aggressive and abusive behaviors, and some children run away, which is called eloping, for no obvious reasons. Children with autism play differently from other children. Most of the time, these children play alone and they cannot engage in play with other children. They often are seen organizing or lining up objects, or they like to wander around the compound, kicking dirt in the air or playing in the puddle. They are unable to engage in any activities with other children, and most of the time they cannot engage in pretend play like house, or get into playing any sports like soccer and football, where they have to follow certain rules. So we saw some of the symptoms which are found commonly in children with autism. Now let us find out, why is it necessary to look for these signs and symptoms if you have a doubt that your child may have autism, and how can that help us? Early and intensive treatment has always shown to have better impact on your child's development. Fewer and milder the symptoms are, easier it will be for you to be a part of a school program or have community experiences. Number 2 is understanding the reasons behind your child's behavior and challenges. When you know why your child is behaving in a certain fashion, it will be easier for you to help them out and manage their behaviors and work on their challenges. Number 3, it will be easier to find suitable school for your child. When you can recognize the symptoms of autism in your child, and if you can get a proper diagnosis, then it will be easier for you to enroll in the right kind of school where your child will benefit the maximum. So when you have a diagnosis of autism for your child, you will find many support programs, groups, and you can meet other parents with similar challenges. Meeting other parents will give you a chance to know and discover more about autism. And in turn, you can also make friends for yourselves and for your children. In this episode, we talked about recognizing the signs and symptoms of autism spectrum disorder to some extent. And we also talked about why it is important to recognize these symptoms. In the next episode of Friday Facts, you will learn about very specific symptoms of autism spectrum disorder. So stay tuned for that. We all know that there is a rise in the diagnosis of autism spectrum disorders. So in the next episode, I'm going to talk about more symptoms and more red flags which will help you to go in for a diagnosis for your child for autism spectrum disorder. That's all from this Friday Fact. If you liked this episode and also found some value in it, then please subscribe my channel and also like, share and comment on this video. I'm very happy to announce a 90-day skillathon for parents, where you will learn in 90 days how to evaluate your child, how to prepare a program, how to execute a program, how to document it, how to review your children's progress, and how to generalize their learned skill. And in 90 days, trust me, you parents, you will be ready to teach 30 core skills and 100 sub skills to your children with any form of developmental disability. Please be on the lookout for Tuesday tags, where I will be giving you a form to fill and be a part of that skillathon. So see you on next Tuesday with another skill building episode, and also with the form for 90 days skillathon. Till then, goodbye and take good care of yourselves. Thank you.